This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, good morning. Today I want to start a new OSB project. Okay, with small business logic, I want to create an OSB project with three different web services. Each web service will perform one arithmetic operation, something like first web service will perform addition of two numbers, second web service will perform subtraction of two numbers, third web service will perform multiplication of three numbers, something like this. I want to build one OSB project with three different web services. And in these three different web services, I want to show you how to use xquery, how to use XSLT, how to use xquery as expression. I mean, I want to introduce the reusability. I mean, how we can reuse a visitor document in an OSB project. And I want to show you how we can play with an activity called replace activity. Okay, there is an activity, sorry, it's not activity, there is an action called replace action. Of course, guys, the terminology is different between SOA and OSB. In SOA, call them as activities. In OSB, we call them as actions. So here we have an action called replace action. Our main concentration is how replace action works in an OSB project or in an OSB pipeline. Okay, let's see that. For that, I want to build a new OSB project. So before I build new OSB project, so guys, I have a WSDL with me. I have a common arithmetic interface WSDL, which I am going to use in my project today. Okay, I will share the WSDL with you. You can also do the practice with this WSDL. If you go through this Google Drive, I already shared the URL with you, right? So if you go through this, you can start using this WSDL. Okay, right. Let me go to the JDeveloper. So in JDeveloper, I want to create one new OSB project. Okay, I will name it as Common Arithmetic Project, something like that. Okay, little bit different navigation I want to show you. Yesterday, how we created. Other than that, I want to show you alternative approach. Okay, so go to Service Bus Project. I will name it as Common Arithmetic Project. Okay, Service Bus finish. So I created one new project. Okay, right. So let's create required folders as well. I want to create few folders here. Whenever we create a new project, JDeveloper will take few seconds. It will struck. So in this, what I told you, I want to create three different SOAP web services. Three different SOAP web services. So that means we want three different proxy files, three different pipeline files. So in OSB, if you want to create one project, one web service, at least you need one proxy file and one pipeline file. So at least these two things required to build one SOAP web service. Okay, so let the JDeveloper load, taking time. Okay. Right, so let's create few folders. Mm, I will name them as WSDLs, and then pipeline, and then I will create proxy service. Done. And I want to create one more. I will name it as transformation. Transformation or transformations. Okay. So I created four folders. Okay. Let me create my first web service. See, in yesterday's session, in the previous session, we created our Echo web service by using a pipeline component, right? I selected the pipeline component. I simply drag drop the pipeline here and created it. So when I did that pipeline component configuration, along with pipeline, a proxy file also configured. Today I want to do in the other way. I want to configure proxy. Along with the proxy, I want to configure the pipeline. It's your choice, guys, whether you want to create pipeline along with proxy or proxy along with pipeline. Any approach is fine. Okay. So what I can do here in the service component, we need to configure something called SOAP web service. Okay. Let me right click on it. You can see insert adapters. We must have something called SOAP service. Where is it? FTP, database, AQ, Oracle, SQL CRM, ServiceNow, third party. We need something called proxy. Where is it? HTTP. I'm just searching for one option. Yeah, we can drag drop anyway. Okay, here it is. Right. So what we can do, guys, there are two approaches. Number one, if you see the components list, okay, there you have something called HTTP adapter. Of course, SOAP uses HTTP protocol. Otherwise, here itself in the proxy service pane, in the proxy service pane itself, you can configure, you can just simply right click and you can select the whatever protocol you want. Okay. So if you select HTTP, either you can select HTTP here, okay, or you can drag drop the HTTP adapter, which you can see in the components list. Any one is fine. Okay. So here, let's provide a naming convention. What I want to do, I want to configure a proxy service. I want to name it as add underscore ps. Okay, this is my proxy service, and here if you see, it is asking you to generate the pipeline, a pipeline. Okay, so what I want to give a naming convention, add underscore pipeline. Okay, and the transport protocol, SOAP web service uses HTTP transport protocol. Okay, so you just select the HTTP protocol. There is no other option we have. Click next. And we need to browse the WSDL. Either you can build a WSDL by using this generate option, or you can browse the WSDL. Let me click on this browse option. So once you click browse option, it will give you an option. I mean, whether you can browse the WSDL within the project or outside of your entire developer somewhere. See, my WSDL is somewhere on my desktop. So I'm going to file system, and let me go to my desktop. It's in a folder, common arithmetic interface.WSDL. Okay. So once you browse the WSDL, it will try to import the WSDL into your project. So what I will do, this is my source location, source URL, and this is my import location. So in the import location, what I will do, I will browse WSDL's folder. WSDL's folder. Under WSDL's folder, I want to import my WSDL. Okay, and then say next. See, WSDL will be imported into WSDL's folder. Finish. So WSDL imported. WSDL imported under WSDL's folder. Okay. So let me check my proxy folder. See this, this is the proxy, right? I just came back to the previous screen, proxy folder, add PS, right? This one also you can control. You can browse your proxy folder instead of default folder. I will say proxy service. Proxy file will be created under proxy service folder. And this is the pipeline. Pipeline, we don't have an option to create. Later we can move it. Okay. Click next. I mean, while creating the pipeline, it is not giving any folder option here. If you observe, we don't have an option to select the folder. Later we can browse it. As in the previous session, I told you, right, how to move the files from one folder to another folder. We can do that. Let's click next. Next. And guys, this is the important one, endpoint. So This one also we discussed in the last session, but we did not see the proxy configuration, right? So here, what we can do, we can give our own keyword as endpoint of the web service. Okay, what I'm doing here, common arithmetic project slash proxy service slash add. That's it. This is enough for me. It's an addition service. I want to perform addition of two numbers. That's it. A simple addition. So this is an endpoint, completely customizable. You can modify whatever keyword you want. Okay. Click finish. Once I click finish button, several files will be created. One is proxy file, number two pipeline file. Okay. Just say finish. Observe here, this is the pipeline file and this is the proxy file. So close this composite file and see this, guys. This is the pipeline, right? I want pipeline file into my pipeline folder. It's very simple. Right click on it and you can move this file. You can move this file. Instead of proxy service folder, I want to select pipeline folder. Say okay. Done. So your file will be moved, your pipeline file will be moved from proxy folder to pipeline folder. It is just a best practice, that's it. It's not mandatory to maintain the folders, but it is the best practice as per industry standards. Okay. Now let's open the pipeline file. So what I want to do here, I want to design a small business logic addition of two numbers. How many different ways we can do that, I will introduce. Okay. So in OSB service, in OSB pipeline file, we can design business logic by using actions. Okay, there are several actions, mainly two types of actions. There are few actions behaves like scope. I mean, it's not just scope, there are several actions. I will introduce one by one. Okay, so without a scope kind of action, you cannot design a business logic. Okay, so what you can do, see here, sometimes we have to, so the components should come here, the components or actions list should come here. Sometimes it is not loading. Okay, what we can do, it's very simple. Right click on this start node. This is called start node in pipeline. Right click on the start node, insert into, select something called pipeline pair node. Pipeline pair node. There are two types of actions, guys. In OSB pipeline, there are two types of actions: nodes, active actions, nodes and actions. Okay, node behaves like a scope, not just, I mean, at least the high level for your understanding, node behaves like a scope, group of actions you can keep at one place. Okay, so there are several nodes, not just one node. We have different types of nodes available. What you can do, just right click on the start node, insert into, you can see something called pipeline pair node. Just select this pipeline pair node. It is kind of a scope. It's kind of a scope. Okay, here observe, there are two different pipelines: request pipeline, response pipeline. Okay, so these two places are eligible to design the business logic. Whatever business logic you want to create, you can do here. Always request pipeline execute first, then response pipeline will be executed. But it's not mandatory to design the business logic into two different parts. It's your choice. I mean, as per your need, as per your business requirement, you can decide what part of the business logic you can design in request pipeline, what part of the business logic we can design in response pipeline. It's not mandatory to keep the business logic into these two pipelines. Okay, it's not mandatory. It's your choice and you have all the rights. You can decide as per your business logic. Okay, now I have a small business logic to execute. I want to perform addition of two numbers. That's it. Okay, let me open the common arithmetic interface WSDL. If you see this WSDL, it has two XSDs. One is request XSD, request schema, and another is response XSD. Response XSD. In the request XSD, what it is giving, OSB in 1, this is one integer, OSB in 2, this is another integer. So we are expecting two integers as input, and the output, if you see, it is expecting an operation name and a result. Operation name and result. Okay, so this is the output format. So what I want to do, suppose if I perform addition of two numbers, I will calculate plus, I will calculate addition by using plus operator and generates the result. Suppose 10 and 20 are our input. I want to perform addition of two numbers. So what is 10 plus 20? 30. The result will become 30. Okay. And the operation name, I want to hard code a string, hard code a string, a content, what we can say, a fixed string. Okay. So I want to hard code a fixed string or a const in this field, like something like addition, add, a string I want to hard code. Okay, something like this. I want to do one small business logic here. In this example, doing addition is not a concentration. How we are operating with the different actions, the thing we need to see. Okay. Right. So let me go back to the project. So what I want to do here, I want to perform addition of two numbers, and it is your choice. You can use request pipeline or response pipeline. Okay. When you have more complex logic, you can divide your logic into two parts. Some part of the logic you can keep in request pipeline. Some part of the logic you can keep in response pipeline. Otherwise, entire logic you can keep in request pipeline, or entire logic you can keep in response pipeline. Not an issue. Okay, so but if you have business logic in both the request branch and response branch, always request branch will be executed first and then response branch will be executed second. Okay, now what I want to do in the request pipeline, under stage node, see, stage is one kind of node, it is one node, pipeline is one node. Okay, there are different nodes and actions. In OSB pipeline, we have different nodes and actions. So the first node, what we saw, pipeline node, we saw, and now there is another node called, what is this, stage. Stage also a kind of node. Okay, but guys, in OSB, you have to configure the actions in an order, hierarchical way. You cannot directly configure the action. Suppose now I want to do addition of two numbers, right? To perform addition of two numbers, we need an action called replace. Observe this. There are several actions we have. I want to use an action called replace. Okay, select it. So now if you see, replace is an action, but I cannot place this replace action outside stage node. If you see here, before pipeline, see, this is the pipeline, right? If I try to place this replace action before pipeline, I'm not allowed. And even after pipeline, I'm not allowed. That means actions, you have to keep actions inside nodes only. Okay, you cannot configure only actions. Okay, so this replace action, suppose if you see, I'm placing this replace action in another circle. See here what happened when I move this replace action from stage 1 to outside stage, it is configured along with another stage. Okay, but the alone replace action you cannot configure. Observe. See this, I'm moving it again. See, it is coming along with stage node only. It is coming along with stage node. You cannot configure it without stage node. Okay, you cannot configure actions without nodes. Okay, let me delete whatever are not required. I will delete stage 2 and stage 3. Done. Okay, this is the replace action. So now guys, how this replace action will be operated, concentrate here. It's very important. You need to concentrate here. If you understand how the replace action works, 30 to 40% of OSB session completed. If you understand it properly, how the replace action is working, 30 to 40% of OSB learning is completed. Okay, right. In this replace action, we need to do multiple things. We need to supply the input. First thing, we need to supply the input. Second thing, execute the business logic. And the third thing, save the output of the business logic in a variable. So there are three different things we are doing. Number one, supply the input to the replace action. Number two, execute the business logic. And number three, whatever business logic executed and output generated, that output we need to save in a variable. Okay, three things I want to do in this replace action. Okay, let me show you one by one. First, I want to configure something called a transformation logic. Transformation logic, of course, you can build the transformation logic by using XSLT or XQuery. Okay, let me show you XQuery here. So how we can generate the transformation file. So right click on this transformations folder. Okay, and I want to generate a new transformations file, XQuery file version 1.0. Just select this. Okay, you can give some naming convention. I will say addition, add transformation, and guys, you need to select the source XSD. You need to select the source XSD and target XSD here. Let me select the source XSD. Once you click plus icon, it is asking function parameter. You can say any user defined keyword. I am saying source. Source is my keyword. Okay, and then select the sequence type, browse it, and you need to browse the source XSD. The entire browse option is just to select the source XSD, nothing else. Our source XSD is in our WSDL. If you see common arithmetic project, there is a WSDL. In the WSDL, you can see XSDs. Request schema is my source XSD. I want to process the data. I want to perform addition of two numbers. Whatever input I received, on top of the input, I want to perform addition of two numbers. So this is my source in a transformation. Done. Click OK. Simply say OK. Done. So we are able to select the source. Source XSD is ready. Similarly, I want to select the target. In the target section, click on this edit icon. Okay, and it is asking you to browse the XML schema. Here you can see the WSDL. Because our XSDs are inside WSDL, so we are using the WSDL document and select the XSD document. Suppose your XSDs are outside WSDL, yes, of course, you can directly browse the XSD. No need to touch this WSDL document. Okay, select the response schema as our target XSD. Done. Right, so we selected a source XSD, we selected a target XSD. We are creating an XQuery file. Just simply say OK. Now what happened? A transformation file will be created, and this transformation file, of course, it looks like your XSLT in SOA. In SOA also we have a similar transformation file, right? In OSB also we have. I mean, graphically both look same, but the technology is different. In the back end, whatever technology is generated here, it is different. XSLT different, XQuery different, but graphically they look little similar. Okay, right. So what we want to do, we want to generate operation name and result. Okay, so what I will do, first operation name, just select it and right click on it and insert. That means we are enabling the element. If you don't do this, your element is not ready to do the mapping. Okay, just enable the element. If you say insert, okay, observe this, guys. In the properties tab, you get a space to write an expression. Here I want to write an expression. So my operation name, I just want to hard code. What I will do, I will hard code it as add. I'm just writing an addition. I mean, hard code string, a constant I want to keep in this element. Okay. Once you provide this, it's a kind of expression builder. Here you can write your expression. Guys, once your expression is ready, you need to commit. See this icon. You need to commit it. If you don't click on this icon, this mapping will not be committed. Okay. Just click on this icon. So this mapping committed. Now go to the second one, result. What we want to do, result, how we can get the result, we need to add addition of two numbers. So first enable this element, right click on this element, insert. See this element enabled. This enabled. If you see the properties, this enabled, see, you need to get this expression builder. This is a kind of expression builder. You can write the expression here. So what we want to do, addition of two numbers. What are the addition of two numbers we need to do? From source, we are getting OSB in 1 and OSB in 2. These two things we want to do addition. So how we can do that? Just select the target, and enable it. Simply right click on it and select the insert. We enabled it. Okay. Yes. Okay. So now we enabled it. And here I want to write the expression. The expression is, see this guys, source variables are available here. Source variables are also available here. Just drag drop first element. Simply drag drop, nothing else you need to do. Okay, this is the first element, space plus second element. Done. So we are performing addition of two numbers, and you need to click on the commit icon. If you don't select this commit icon, it will not be committed. Done. Observe here, the first thing, the first element, we are hard coding with a string. The second element, we are performing addition of two numbers. So this is called as XPath. If you see here, this is called as XPath. Okay, I will talk about XPath more clearly. Just wait for 1 or 2 more sessions. Okay, we'll have more discussion on XPath. Done. So my transformation file is ready. Observe here, I generated one individual transformation file. In that individual transformation file, I selected source XSD and target XSD, and I designed the business logic. In this transformation file, I did not selected what is the source variable which contains the data, what is the target variable which holds the data. This part was not done. We just created one transformation file with the request structure and response structure. That's it. And required business logic. Okay. Any questions as of now? We created one transformation file with a request XSD and response XSD, and we designed the business logic here. But we did not supply what is the source variable and target variable, that we will see. We just provided the structure, source XSD, target XSD. Okay. Any questions from anyone? Any questions from anyone? No? Okay, fine. If no question, yeah.
No, sir.
No question. Okay, good. So let's come back to our pipeline file. If you observe, guys, we are ready with the transformation file. This is the transformation file who executes the business logic. It has the logic to execute. Okay. Now come back to your pipeline and see the replace action. In the replace action, there are several properties you need to configure. Observe this. There are several properties you need to configure. Location, value, replace option. Okay. So in this, few properties are related to source, few properties are related to target. Okay, I mean, how to execute the business logic. When you execute a business logic, you need to supply the input, execute the logic, and then you will get the output. Correct? This is the, I mean, very high level understanding. For your high level understanding, this is how it is. You need to supply the input, execute logic, and then you generate the output. Okay, to provide the input, we need a variable. To provide the input, we need a variable, right? So this is input variable. To store the output, we need a variable, output variable. So this is how it is. I mean, there are three things we need to configure. We need to configure input variable to input variable for the logic, who holds the data, and execute the logic. Execute the logic is nothing but your transformation file. This is your transformation file. Okay, and then whatever output generated, that output I want to store into my output variable. Any questions? Any questions? This is something like this. If you see this diagram, see this, we have input XML. We have input XML. This input XML, you need to see step one, we have input XML. In a variable, what is our input variable? In our pipeline, body is our input variable, correct? Body is the input variable. Body variable contains input XML. Of course, here I'm not using any qualifiers and namespaces, but while executing the program, your XML comes with qualifiers and namespaces. Okay, in the interest of space, I'm not using the qualifiers and namespaces here, but it's not the way. Every time XML comes with qualifiers and namespaces. Okay, but just try to understand the concept, how the replace action works. In the replace action, there are three things we need to do. We need to supply the input. in our current use case, input is available in the input variable. In our pipeline, our input variable is called as body variable. Our input variable is called as body variable. It's a context variable. Okay. So this input variable contains the XML, input XML. We supply this input XML as input to our transformation file. So this is the transformation file, right? XQuery file we designed. This is the transformation file. So step 2, what we are doing, we are supplying this input XML to our transformation file. Okay, step 2. So once you supply the input, so this business logic will be executed, whatever business logic we designed. Okay, that business logic will be executed and the target XML will be generated. See, this is step 4. Step 4, target XML generated. Step 3, what? Step 3 is execute the logic. And step 4, target XML format will be generated. So this is the target XML format, response schema, which contains operation name and result. And of course, if the input is 100 and 200, then the output is 300 only. And operation name we hardcoded as addition, add. Okay. So if you execute this transformation file, an output XML generated, and this output XML, see step number 5. This output XML I want to store in my body variable. So once you store the required XML in body variable, at the end of the process, body variable will go as output variable of your pipeline file. Is the life cycle you understand? We have only one variable, body variable, which acts in two different flavors. Body as pipeline input variable, body as pipeline output variable, two different flavors. Okay. So what we are doing in this transformation, we are using body as input variable, which holds the input XML. That is step number 1. Step number 1, body as input variable, which holds the input XML. We provide the input XML to transformation as input. This is step number 2. We provide the input XML as input to your transformation, step number 2. And step number 3, execute the business logic and execute the business logic in the XQuery file, whatever logic you designed, execute the business logic. So step number 4, output XML generated as per your business logic. Output XML generated as per your business logic. So this XML we need to store in a variable. Some variable we need to store this XML. So which variable we use? In our case, body is our output variable. The same body variable we are going to use as output variable. So body variable already contains input XML, which we are going to replace with output XML. We want to replace the body variable with output XML. So that is nothing but step number 5. So total 5 steps will be performed when you execute a replace action. Okay. So, but this configuration also you need to do. This 5-step configuration you need to do in the replace action. Let me go back. See this replace action. Once you select the replace action, some set of properties will be displayed here. Okay, so let's configure it. See, first I want to configure the value property. Here you can see there is a small arrow icon. There are different ways you can configure the expression. In this example, I want to show you XQuery expression. We have different things, guys. XQuery expression, XQuery resources, XSLT. Mainly these three things we will use. I will show you in different examples. First, I am using XQuery resource. XQuery resource means XQuery transformation file. I have a transformation file, an additional transformation file, which was developed by using XQuery language. Let me use XQuery resource. Once I click this option, I got a pop-up to browse the XQuery resource, nothing but your addition transformation file. Just click on the browse icon. Once you click on the browse icon, it will give you an option to browse. Okay. Go to the location of this project. It is in my C drive, JDeveloper, my work, OSB practice application, common arithmetic, transformations folder, and this is my XQuery file. Just say OK. Okay, once you click OK, it is saying. It is trying to import. Why it is trying to import? It should not, right? Anyway, let me, the import location I will change here. Import location, I will keep the transformation folder itself. Then let's see what will happen. Resources to import. Why it is importing that? Cancel it. Let's browse it again. Let me go through the navigation again. Xquery resource, browse, wait for browse option. You will get a pop-up. Okay, now, okay, go to application. This is the best way. Go to application. If you go to application, here you can see it is showing all available transformation files. As of now, we have only one transformation file. Say okay. Done. Once you browse the transformation file, guys, here it is asking for the source variable. Your source variable. What is your source variable? I need to browse my source variable. I need to browse my source variable. What is our variable? Body is our source variable, correct? So click on this FX, expression builder icon, FX, and you see here, these are all the different context variables and body is our input variable. Observe carefully, body is available in two different flavors. Body as request variable, body as response variable. Body as request variable contains request XSD format, request XSD format. Body as response variable contains response XSD format. Okay, as of now, we want to supply the input. We want to supply the input, nothing but request schema. Body as request variable, which contains the root element request schema. Select it. See the expression. This is called XPath. This is called XPath. I will explain the XPath. Okay, separately. Just wait for some more time. Maybe in the next session, I'm going to explain you XPath section. But just observe, this is the body variable which contains request schema. Request schema is our root element of XSD. Okay, this is my source. This is the input to our transformation. In this format, I got the input data. Body variable contains request schema XSD. See this. Body variable contains request schema XSD. Okay, request schema XML that I want to provide as input. Say okay. Now what happened? We selected the transformation file. For this transformation file, this is the source. For this transformation file, this is the data we need to execute. Done. These two things done. This is the input variable we configured, and this is the transformation file configured. So I mean, we need to, this transformation file will take care how to execute the logic. Transformation file will take care how to execute the logic. We already designed the logic in transformation file. Now say okay. See, this is the property we configured, value property we configured. In the value property, we selected transformation file. We also provided the input variable for this transformation. Done. Now you need to configure the target. What is your target? See, this is the target, right? Once we got the output XML, this output XML, step number 4 will copy the data into step number 5. What is your target variable? Our target variable, in our current case, our target variable is again body variable. Body variable as output variable. Okay, so what I want to do here, if you see location, let me choose body variable. My target variable also body variable. My target variable is body variable, and XPath I am saying dot. Dot means root element. Dot means root element. In the target variable, I want to replace the root element. See here, what is our target variable? Our target variable is body variable, which already holds an input XML, and I want to replace dot. Dot means the entire root element. Dot means root element. What is the root element in the body variable? If you observe, capital body, capital B, body is the root element. So this is how the body variable structure looks like. So in this, I want to replace the root element. Is it clear, guys? Everybody? So we are telling this is the target variable. This is the target variable. In the target variable, replace the dot. our action name is replace, right? We want to replace. Okay, replace the target variable content. And while replacing, again, two options we have: replace entire node, replace node content. So guys, if you see the body variable, when you have this XML in the body variable, see your input XML comes along with the additional tags called body. Body is the additional tag, B capital here. So this B capital here. Okay, so I want to replace my output XML. I want to keep my output XML into body variable. When you keep the output XML into body variable already holds some data. So the entire data you want to replace or only some part of the data you want to replace, you need to decide. In the current requirement, I want to replace the entire data of my body variable. So I said dot replace node content. Replace node content. Here node represents dot. I mean, here whatever expression you have, that is the representation of node. Dot means root element. So here root element is body. In body, see here two options we have: replace entire node, replace node content. Replace entire node means body element, body open tag to body close tag. But I don't want to lose body tags, so I want to go with the second option called replace node content. Here node content means content of body element, which is nothing but request schema. This is the XML, request schema XML. I want to, is it clear guys? I'm not seeing any response. And I clicked on the wrong option. So is there any question guys? You understand this option? Replace entire node, replace node content. Do you understand these two options? Entire node, replace entire node means the target variable, whatever the target variable we have, replace the content of the target variable, total whatever it contains. My target variable contains body tag which contains input XML. Replace node content means and everything you need to replace. And the second option, replace node content. Entire node means everything you want to replace. Node content means leave the root element, and whatever the root element contains, that part you need to replace. Is it clear? Not clear? Guys, I'm expecting response from you. Otherwise, I will try to explain this in a different way. If you miss at least one line, you don't understand it. Please confirm me whether you understand it or not.
A little confused.
That's what I told you. If you miss at least one statement, one simple statement, if you miss, you don't understand it. Okay, it's a little tricky concept. Concentrate again. Everyone, I'm trying to explain the concept one more time. Please concentrate. Okay. See, the name of the action is replace. You know what do you mean by replace? You know, right? What replace means? What? Already there is something, we want to override with a new content. That is the meaning, simple meaning of replace. We have some content, that content I want to replace with new content. Okay, that is the simple meaning of replace. Now how we are using this replace in OSB? I want to execute a business logic. I want to do some data transformation. For that, I'm using a transformation file, XQuery transformation file. This transformation file will transform the data from source format to target format. Clear? Transformation file will transform the data from source format to target format. Will you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes? No.
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes, sir.
To execute the replace action, there are three things we need to configure. We need to supply some input variable, some input data we need to supply to the transformation file, and then execute the transformation file. And this transformation file will generate an output. That output I want to store in an output variable. Okay. So what is our input variable to execute the transformation? In our case, in pipeline, in this OSB pipeline, we have only one variable, which is body variable. It's a context variable. Body variable behaves as pipeline input variable. Body variable behaves as pipeline output variable. Agree with this statement? Body variable behaves as pipeline input variable. Body
Yes, right.
variable behaves as pipeline output variable. Okay, one variable with two different flavors, two different behaviors, but variable is only one variable. Okay, you can use the variable as input variable, you can use the variable
Sir, are you speaking? You are unable.
I think power issue. హలో హలో
వెంకన్న
వాయిస్ మీకు కూడా రావట్లేదా?
వాయిస్ రావట్లేదన్న. అది సార్ లెఫ్ట్ అయినట్టున్నారు.
సార్ లెఫ్ట్ అవ్వలేదు. సార్ వాళ్ళ ఇంట్లో పవర్ ఇష్యూ ఉండి ఉండొచ్చు, స్ట్రక్ అయిపోయిందాడ.
అదే మళ్ళీ రీజాయిన్ అవుతారు అనుకుంటా.
Hello everyone, is I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so guys, listen carefully. This is the one of the important step in OSB. If you understand this action, you understand everything. Majority part of OSB you can understand if you understand the replace action. So the name of the action itself is saying it's a replace. It's going to replace something in an existing variable. Okay. So these are the three steps we want to execute. We want to perform a transformation. For that transformation, you need to supply the input variable. And once the transformation completed, there is some output generated. That output you need to keep in an output variable. This is the high level process what we want to execute. But in our current case, body is our source variable. Body is our source variable, like a pipeline input variable. Pipeline input variable. This is our body variable. We want to execute a transformation. Of course, we have a transformation here. Add transformation. Add a transformation. Add transformation dot xqy xquery file. And this transformation will generate an output. That output I want to store in a variable. Again, the variable name is body variable. Our target variable also body variable, but this time the flavor of the body variable must be pipeline output variable. Okay, is it clear? Our source variable is body, our target variable also body. Okay, and we are using replace action because while copying the output data, we are using body as our target variable. Body variable already contains input XML that we want to replace with output XML. So that replace part will taken care by replace action. Any questions as of now? Any questions?
No.
It's not like your BPEL process, guys. In BPEL process, our input variable is different, output variable is different. You simply do the mappings, correct? But here, it's not that graphical representation. Okay, it's here. Body is the input variable, body is the output variable. Body we supplied as input variable to the transformation. Transformation executes the logic and generates the output. That output again we want to store in a target variable. Unfortunately, in our case, our target variable is again a body variable. Okay, so to execute the entire logic, to execute the entire process, we are using an action called replace action. In this replace action, the first property is value. Property. In this, what we did, number one, browse xqy file. Okay, number two, configure source variable. Of course, in our case, it is body as input variable. Body with input XML, I will say. Okay, body with input XML. So this property configuration completed. Value property configuration completed. And then we are configuring location. So this location property is a target side property. What is your target variable? We need to configure here. My target variable is, what is our target variable? Target variable configuration. Okay, my target variable is body variable. Is it clear? Target variable is body variable. Now, in body variable, it's a replace, right? The action what we are executing is replace action. In target variable, we already know it contains some data. In our case, our target variable is body, which holds input XML. We want to replace that. So how the body variable looks like at this point of time, how it looks like is very important. See, the body variable, whenever we are talking about body variable with input XML, this is how it looks like. This is the body variable. If you see this is the body variable, and this body variable contains input XML. This body variable contains input XML. Observe the input XML, how it looks like. There is a tag called body, BODY, capital B. Body variable root element is body tag B capital. Okay, which holds the actual input XML according to your input XSD. Okay, this is our input XSD. See this input XSD. This is our input XSD. Request schema is the root element, OSB in 1, OSB in 2. This is the XSD format. According to this XSD, we have our XML. You understand the body variable structure? Which holds fixed root element, that is body tag. Body variable contains fixed root element, that is body tag, B capital, okay, that contains our input XML. Now, after execution of transformation, we are generating an XML. See this XML, this is the output XML. This is the output XML according to your transformation. In the transformation, see response schema, operation name, result. The same format XML generated, output XML. This is the output XML of transformation. Okay, this output XML, we want to store in a variable. So what is our variable in our use case? What is our target variable? Our target variable is again a body variable. After transformation, the transformation result of transformation, we want to store into body variable. Okay, but we know body variable already contains request XML. Correct? Body variable already contains request XML. So what we want to do? We want to replace the output XML in body variable. Is the point clear for everybody? We generated output XML. That XML we want to store it into a variable. Okay, to store the XML into a variable, is I audible?
Yes, now.
Okay. So this output XML, whatever the output generated by your transformation, must be stored into a target variable. In our case, our target variable is again body variable. So we want to replace existing content. The existing content is body tag with input XML. This is existing content. We want to replace the existing content with the new content. Okay, so while you are replacing existing content with new content, so what you want to replace here, it is giving two options: replace entire node, replace node content. Replace entire node means our target is body variable. It contains input XML along with body tag. Replace entire node means along with the body tag, everything will be removed and replace it with our XML, with our output XML. If you choose the second option,
yeah. One question, sir. So if we select entire node content, so it will remove body from here, right?
Correct.
Okay. So then there is no use. There will be no response.
So how we define the node also matter here. Replace entire node, replace node content, correct? So in these two options, you see a keyword called node. What we called by node? Node means what? Okay, this node decided by the XPath what you configured here. Dot, I provided dot, right? So this dot decides the node. Generally, dot means root element of an XML, root element of a variable. Dot means root element of a variable. I will give you more expressions going forward, but now just understand location attribute will helps us to choose the target variable. Location attribute helps us to choose the target variable. So we selected the target variable as body variable. In the body variable, this XPath will help us to choose the node. This is node. Whatever expression you configure here is called as a node. So here I select dot. Dot means root element. In our case, body is the target variable. and dot is the root element. What is the root element here? Body tag. Dot represents the node. Dot represents the node. In our case, the dot means root element. Root element becomes node. So in our case, this root element body tag is the root element. Body tag becomes the node. Is that clear? So once you define the root, once you define the node, again node has two options. You want to replace node or node content. You want to replace node or node content. Two options we have. If you select the first option, node will be replaced. If you select the second option, node content will be replaced. So node means body tag, node content means request schema tag. Is it clear? I don't get the response, guys.
Yes.
Raja, can you please respond?
Yes, please.
Raja, Samaya, Vikram.
Yes.
Sir,
Vikram.
sir, Sammaya.
Sir, assembly.
Samaya, what happened? You understand?
Nothing. Yeah, sir.
Yes, no, something, guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's execute. You will have more clarity once you execute this. Okay. So what I am going to do, I'm selecting replace node content. Okay. So guys, this replace option, replace entire node, replace node content. This will be decided on the location XPath. So whatever XPath you selected here, based on it, it will vary. Okay. Let's see what will happen. Okay. With the default properties, what it is going to do. Let's see. I will export this. Let me export service bus resources. Arithmetic operation, just select the pipeline, proxy file, and we want transformation, and we also need visitor. Okay, I'm just some network issue. Guys, is I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Can someone confirm? Okay. Fine.
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to deploy. I just selected the files which I want to export as a jar. Export the jar on my desktop. You can give any name to this jar. I will say add edition service, right? I just said add, finish. So a jar created. Let's go to USB console. Create the start the session. I need to start the session. So I need to create a session. And then you need to import. This is the option to import. Just click on this icon. Once you click on the import icon, you will get a pop-up to browse the jar. I will go to my desktop and add jar. Add jar. Click next. And then import. Done. So we imported the service. You can see here, Common Arithmetic project, and you can see the proxy file. Proxy file, and in the proxy file, what is this? Okay, in the proxy. Okay, we need to activate the session first. then we can test it. Add project, deployed, activate. So you can deploy and test this service. Okay. Let me test the proxy file. This is the proxy file. If I test this, okay, see this 100 and 200. Let me give 100 and 200 as my input. Request XML. This is the request XML as per XSD. Just submit the request. Okay, and we got the output. If you observe the output. Okay, this is the request. This is the request. And this is the response. Okay, so what, let me format this. Have you observed the result? So is it clear, or you want me to explain one more time how this replace action is working?
For me, it's clear.
Okay, so now you can do little bit to play on this. So suppose instead of dot means what is it? Root element, right? Dot means root element. Root element is nothing but body tag. Suppose instead of dot, I will say dot slash, let's see the format here, body variable request structure, response structure, right? Let's say instead of dot, my body variable contains input structure, correct? Just observe what I'm doing. My body variable contains input structure. So this is the input structure. Suppose instead of dot, I said OSB in 1. So my node is OSB in 1. My node OSB in 1 becomes my node. Okay, if I select this property like this, instead of dot, if I do this, my node OSB in 1 become my node. OSB in 1 become my node. So you want to replace the entire node, or you want to replace the node content? Now you can decide. Okay, suppose if you say replace node content, so 100 is the node content. OSB in 1 node content is 100. Correct or not? Okay, suppose if you say entire node, so this OSB in 1 is the entire node. OSB in 1 open tag, data and close tag. Okay, let's observe what it will do if I make this change. Okay, suppose now I made some changes in my pipeline. Okay, let me deploy this. Let me export this as a jar. So guys, this time I just want to deploy only pipeline. I don't want to deploy all the files. Okay, I want to deploy only pipeline. Select only pipeline. Okay, I made changes only in the pipeline. Done. Browse the jar. I'm selecting the same jar. Finish. Okay, now go to your SB console. See how I'm doing. Create a session, import, browse the jar, so this jar contains only pipeline, nothing else. Whatever file modified, only that specific file you can deploy in OSB. In SOVA, it's not that. In SOVA, you need to deploy the entire project. But in OSB, whichever file you want to deploy, only select that file. So now we have only one file, that is pipeline file. No other file I'm deploying, because all other files are already deployed. I'm deploying only pipeline file. Close. Okay, let's activate the session. And test it. Now observe the results. Okay, so this is 100 and 200. What will happen? Observe. Execute. Observe the result. The body, your output contains request schema as is, we have the request XML, and what we have, your response XML is replacing OSB in one. Your response, if you see this response XML, what we did here, this is the node configuration. OSB in one is the node. OSB in one is the node, and we said replace entire node. We said replace entire node. That means this is the one. This is the input XML. In this input XML, this is stored in body variable. Okay, I mean, see, this is step one. We have input variable. We have input XML. This is input XML. So this input XML stored into body variable. This input XML stored into body variable. Body variable. So if it store it into body variable, this looks like this. There is a root element, capital B body. This is how it looks like. Body. Okay. Now we supply this to transformation file. Step 3. Supply body variable as input variable to transformation file. Right? So now what transformation file did? generate transformation output XML. Generate transformation output XML. So this is the transformation output XML. This is the transformation output XML. Now we need to store transformation output XML into a target variable. So what is our target variable? Our target variable is body variable. Our target variable is body variable. Okay. So our target variable is body variable, and body variable already contains data. Our body variable already contains data. If you see, our body variable already contains data. Line number 23 to 28. Any question? Any question? This is the current condition of body variable. So, but we want to store this XML. We want to store the XML line number 33 to 36. This is the output XML of transformation. This XML we want to store into our body variable. In body variable, where you want to store? Body variable is not empty variable. Body variable contains something. In body variable, which part of the body variable you want to store this output XML of transformation? Okay, that will be decided based on these two properties. Location property, we configure the target variable. In our case, it is body. Body is not empty. Body is not empty. It contains something. It contains something. That something you can access with XPath. Okay, so that, I mean, your body variable contains request schema XML. Your body variable contains request schema XML. So in the body variable, you want to replace the entire content, or which part of the body variable you want to replace, that you can configure by using this FX symbol. See this FX expression builder. By using this expression builder, you can decide which part of the target you want to replace. Suppose if you say dot, I want to replace the root element. If you say dot, I want to replace the root element. Guys, root element means starts with open tag, ends with close tag. Whatever inside open tag and close tag, everything comes under root element. Okay. If you say dot, I want to replace body tag. Okay. Suppose I said dot slash request schema. Dot slash request schema. I mean, don't write it. I don't suggest you write the expression. Just go to this variable. In the root element, say in the body variable already contains the input XML. Suppose if you select request schema, so it comes with qualifiers and everything. Okay, you don't have any errors. Then this means what? Dot represents the root element. Within the dot request schema. So this is the element we selected now. Request schema we selected under dot request schema. And what we want to do? Here you take the decision, replace entire node, replace node content. If you say replace entire node means 23 to 27, replace entire node. Okay, replace node content means 25 and 26. This is the node content. So what you configured here matters. This decides the node. Location attributes decides node in the target variable, and replace option decides what element need to be replaced. Element need to be replaced, or content of element need to be replaced. That we will decide based on the replace option. Okay, so in the current use case, in the current, see this example, this is the input we supplied as input, and then according to the expression in replace action, we are replacing OSB in one element removed and replaced with output XML. Just observe, this is your input XML. This is your input XML. In the input XML, only one element I replaced. OSB in one replaced with output XML. This is according to the configuration. What configuration you did? See, let me open the pipeline. See, in SB console, you can open the pipelines at runtime. You can see the code. If you click this, you can see the code. Go to the stays, view stays, and see the configuration what we did. Replace entire node. Replace entire node. That means we selected this option. Replace entire node option we selected, and this is the expression, the target, right? This is the target. Location attribute. What is the expression here? See this? Request schema. Under that OSB in one. We selected OSB in one as our node, and we said and replace entire node. So OSB in one replaced. OSB in one replaced, and the output XML replaced the OSB in one element. Remaining element still remains same. Of course, this is not the right way to do, but I want to show you if you modify the properties, how it behaves. So the right thing is you need to replace the entire node. I mean, we want to replace the root element's content. This is the correct configuration. But if you change anything, how it behaves, you need to understand. You need to play with it. I mean, you change this and see what will happen if you go with entire node, what will happen if you go with node content. Okay, let me show you one more thing. So last time what I said, this is the expression we selected, OSB in one, and we selected entire node, right? Last time we selected replace entire node. Now let me select node content. If I select node content, what will happen? If I select node content, see, last time we lost the OSB in one element. Entire OSB in one element removed and replaced. Right now I am not removing. See the configuration. Replace node content. Okay, let me take a screenshot of it just for comparison. Okay, so last time we selected replace node entire node, but now I selected replace node content. Just observe what will happen. Export only required file. You don't need to export everything. I just want to export only pipeline file because I made the changes only in pipeline. Okay, now try to deploy the code. Create session, import, browse the jar, import it, close, activate the session. Now test the same pipeline. You test the same pipeline. I said 100 and 300, execute. See the output. Compare the output last time and then now. You can compare both the outputs. See this? Request schema. Here also we can see request schema. OSB, see OSB in one. Last time we replaced OSB in one. OSB in one replaced with this output XML. But here, if you see, OSB in one still exists because the property what we configured, node content, replace node content. That means our node is OSB in one. Its content we are overriding. Its content is 100 override with the output XML. Just compare these two results. So what, according to the property what you selected, this will vary. Of course, these two things are not correct. These two things are not correct to get the output, because output we are expecting output only in this format as per contract. This is the output format, correct? Response schema, operation name, and result. You need to build it. So I just want to show you how these properties are working. These are the properties, the combination of properties, how they are working. Any question, guys? Do you understand the difference, or any question from anyone? Can you speak out? This is very, very important. So guys, please don't hesitate. If you don't understand, let me know. I will try to explain one more time. Because if you understand this replace action, you are going to cover 30 to 40% of OSB concepts. Easily you can understand. Please confirm whether you understand it or not.
Yes, sir.
Vikram. Vikram, please speak out. Speak out, sir. I'm not able to hear you.